Hi, I'm Margie Holmes, psychologist, author, and educator. Last week I asked, what's the best advice you ever got? This week we'll talk about the opposite, the worst piece of advice you ever received. And here's what you said. On relationships, May Magsino. My biological mom and dad told me not to go to college since I was good at keeping the family house in order. So I guess they felt better be a maid and their caregiver when they grew old. I never believed them. My grandma trained me to have a mind of my own and use it. Yay for grandmas! Anonymous, preserve your virginity until marriage. Ella Quintanar, you'll get over it. John Rufino, when you fall in love with someone, you'll know he's the one when you throw away the list you've made of the things you're always looking for in a partner. But, John adds, oftentimes it turns out that the list finds its way back to the forefront when you discover that you two have no common ground other than your fading attraction for each other. Angelina Canapi, worst advice to the brokenhearted aside from move on is out of sight, out of mind. Victoria Rudio, you'll find it better with someone else. Rima Villame, cheat on him. On religion, we also have some advice. Maureen Jean Lara, when people tell me to do something because it is the morally right thing to do, that is, it is something because this is what a Christian should do. I mean, one should not use being Christian to impose what is still obviously societal standards and expectations. Victor Hall, the worst advice, alas, from people who really meant well. If you pray to Saint Teresa and Padre Pio, they will grant you a miracle and you will no longer be gay. It's never worked, says Victor. Angelina Sparks Canapi replied, if it did, Victor, I'd pray and ask the saints to give me back my virginity. Well, that sparkles for you, and one of the reasons I so love her. Now, for the grieving, Sparkles, Angelina Sparks Canapi says, the worst kind of advice anyone I know gives is usually when people are grieving, especially when they've lost a loved one. Here are some examples. At least he only suffered for a week. At least she didn't suffer. At least they received the last rites. Angelina counters, excuse me, but during those times, I simply miss them. I wonder what their final thoughts were. I wonder how painful it could be for the last breath they've taken. And I wonder if the last rites actually made them feel more prepared. All these morbid thoughts. Oh, and have I mentioned that I was still missing them? Isabel Lovina shares another insensitive advice during one's most painful moments. It is best he died young. Who knows, he could have become a drug addict. Huh? Anyway, Isabel continues, move on. Sparkles adds, they're in a better place right now. They're watching over you. And Sparkle counters, well, maybe, but who really knows? And again, what does it matter since I miss them and I still can remember their scent, their voices, their looks? Another from Sparkle, let's pray. You should keep praying so he can leave purgatory right away. She counters, yeah, he just died. He suffered. I can still remember what his worries and problems were here on earth. And I get alarmed by some place I can't even imagine. Can't we have advice? And finally, in the worst advice department, Angelina shares, cheer up. He would have wanted you that way. Angelina adds, and this is an answer I would have liked to give, Angelina says, my dad is gone. I think if I want to be catatonic, it doesn't matter to him. If it did, he'd be insensitive of my grief, and daddy's not like that. And how come you know more than I do? Angelina continues, I'd rather have companionable silence, a hug, friends telling me anecdotes about my dad, or even friends seeking comfort from me too. We're all bereaved, and to be one in this and stay there for a while may even end in a celebration. She also adds finally, perhaps the one thing that can help is, we'll always be there for you. You're not alone. But please don't say this unless you mean it. And now we have general worst advice category. Ivy Yarola. Just take the same meds I did when I had that ailment. Bert Kibuyen, worst advice. You can do it. Bert's reaction, hell, I know my limitations and know what I can and cannot do. Some say it's encouragement, motivation to say these things. But is it really? Even the one saying this probably doesn't believe you can, and yet he still tells you that you can do it. In that case, why don't they do it? Tanya M. Garcia, I told you so. Well, totoo naman, but I guess where you're in a certain state, you expect something more than that, at least from people who like or love you. Jelly says the absolute worst is getting good advice from people and these people don't walk the talk. Well, that's it for today. Next week, we shall talk about people who interfere. No, not necessarily some people like the parents of Heart Evangelista, which may have been, believe me, a problem, especially in a country like ours. But we interfere, we Filipinos interfere in so many different ways. And if you have an example, a comment, or an issue, or a question, please send them over on Facebook, tweet using the hashtag AskMargie, or send an email to askmargie@rappler.com. See you next week.